there with us, and they didn't. But they took that oath, all enemies, foreign and domestic. Them have been here longer than us, and they'll be here when we moved on. They're the ones with lifetimes of experience. They're the ones with fresh-faced enthusiasm, patriotism. They're the ones who are here to be part of something bigger than themselves, to serve their country and lead in any way they can. Are they airmen? Some are separated or retired. Some came in through an intern program or basic federal employment opportunity. Some were Marines, Army, Navy, Coast Guard. A lot of them do what we do, better. They do it for the same reason we do. Country. A team is not the people you work with. A team is the people you trust. Ask any airman what the civilian's purpose in the Air Force is, and you might hear the civilians are here to provide know-how and support. And just about every airman will tell you that civilians aren't just part of the team, they're a critical part of the team. So think about this. If everybody on a team supports each other, how are we supporting them? Simple, with our respect. This is for all you civilians watching this. The electricians, the defenders, engineers, childcare, instructors, logistics, finance, human resources, all 180,000 men and women without whom this Air Force would grind to a halt in a split second. You may not stand at attention, but you stand for everything that is good and right about this country. You are part of this team. You embody our core values, and there's such a thing as respect. So we salute you. We thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Colonel DLIELC, for those who don't know, Commander for the International Support Squadron. So welcome. Thank you all for coming. And we're in for a great 1 hour plus development session. Professional development is something that's really important, that we take time to develop ourselves and to develop others. And so before we get started, with Ms. Toney, I do want to introduce a few SMEs in the audience that will also be here to help with your questions later on, and then we're gonna turn it over to our keynote. So we'll start off with Ms. Brown. If you just want to introduce yourself, your title.
Hello everyone, I am Loretta Brown, and my office manages all of the leadership development for civilians at AFPC, so I'll be talking to you about leadership development opportunities that are available to civilians at all levels.
Hi everybody, I'm Patsy Nichols. I'm the Civilian Personnel Officer for Joint Base San Antonio. So myself and my team are here to help you, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Trevino. I'm the JBSA Staffing Supervisor here at Lackland.
Hi everybody, my name is Karina Gomez and I work in the JBSA-Lackland office. I do employee management relations.
Hello everyone, my name is Monica Sanchez and I work in the Civilian Personnel Office as a staffing specialist.
Hi, I'm Janet Vera. I'm a Human Resources Staffer, JBSA-Lackland.
Hi everybody, my name is Sherry Bass and I do the labor relations as a labor relations officer here at Lackland Air Force.
Hi, I'm Sammy Garvin. I work education and training over at Fort Sam Houston and for the Force Development Flight here as part of the 802nd FSS.
All right, thank you all. So now you have an idea of who we have in the room, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to be able to introduce as well Mrs. Toney, or Miss Toney, correction. And so she is a member of the Senior Executive Service and the Executive Director of AFPC, and what that means is she is the #2 responsible for over 1 million people across our Air Force. I can tell you from running half marathons with her that she absolutely cares and does everything in her power to develop civilians, and she is at the forefront of our Air Force in terms of pushing the boundaries, thinking outside the box, and coming up with new and innovative ways to help all of you advance. And so just want to thank you, ma'am, for coming here today, and turn the stage over to you now and to your team.
All right.
everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. As you can see, we really tried to bring some of the experts who you can listen to Miss Toney today, but these are your long-term points of contact that can be much more available than I can. But I will tell you, if you have anything and you need to send it to me directly, you are more than welcome. But hopefully today we'll provide you with some tools for your tool bag. I want to first start off just making it clear, when I do half marathons, I walk fast. Running is definitely a thing of the past, but it is a great way to meet new people, and a friend of mine, brought a mentor of hers, a mentee of hers, and as we started walking, we always split people, and we get to talk because that's 3.5 hours walking and between the missions or whatever. But I was fortunate to get to know Lieutenant Colonel Beloved and hear about some of the concerns and challenges where we're not always, getting the word out to you to help you and to help those that you mentor, supervise, lead. But if we go to the next slide, I want to share with you just a couple of the points. Really, this is an amazing time in our Air Force. We're seeing more change in the talent management area than we've seen in decades. And quite honestly, as we look at the revamping of the officer evaluation performance, the enlisted evaluation performance, in the way that we do civilian development, the Air Force that we had yesterday is not the Air Force that we have today, and nor will it be what we have tomorrow. Because right now, today, it is very important for us to attract and retain every airman we can. And I say that as a big A, and I want you to know that today I'm talking about our airmen that are civilians, enlisted and officers. It is an all-out battle for talent. And it's because everybody's hiring. And they're looking for that talent. They're looking for you to join their team. And so you have a lot of choices out there. And getting that propensity to serve is really important. It's really important that we provide the tools and the opportunities for you to stay on our team, to stay motivated. And look at the diversity of our workforce, even sitting in the room today. It is a huge challenge to motivate those that are in their early 20s all the way, up into some of the other, centuries, shall we say. And I'm one of them as I look out. So, but when you think about how challenging it is to make me happy, to make you happy, and we have so many different interests. So we have a challenge, and every one of you that's a supervisor in here, you have a big challenge. How do we motivate? How do we provide those tools? How do we provide feedback, coaching, and recognition to keep these team members with us and going forward? So that's something really big. And I will tell you, the statement said, there's nothing more important than our weapon system. And you are our weapon system. Our airmen, we cannot do what we do without it. So it's very important that we take time to look at the developmental opportunities. We have a lot of new ones. We never paid for associate's degrees. We never used tuition assistance to pay for PhDs. We're getting certifications. We're expanding experiential opportunities and experiences as we roll out our learning records that will be rolled out that will be all electronically. So there's really a lot of neat things that we're going to cover today. If we go to the next slide, these are the areas, let me start here. So first of all, we're here and we're here to serve you. Our commanders in the field, and on behalf of General Goldfein and our secretary, they inverted the pyramid in support to you. And what we've done is we put airmen, the folks out in the squadrons, and here, like at your level, as the #1 priority across the Air Force. And as you can see, this is started with our senior leadership all the way out to those airmen that are forefront and making the mission work. So we've revamped the way that we do business and the way that we service you based on this model. If you go to the next slide, please. Here are the areas that we're going to cover today. This session will be as good as you make it. So as we go through, please jot down some ideas or any questions that you might have. And this, shall we say, will be the beginning of the journey in which we can help add tools to your tool bag. And each one of you are different. You all have different models. I was telling the team before we came in here today, when I sit down to do individual feedback or development with anybody that I sit down with, I always start, what's your 1-year plan? What's your 3 to 5 year plan, and what's beyond that? Because every one of you is different, and it's very important as a supervisor, as a leader, that I know that. Because I've sat down with people that said, Miss Toney, 2 years, 30 days, and I'm done. And then we don't want to hone in on that type of development, but we'll need to keep him motivated or her motivated in order to keep you motivated. So it's very important that we're honest with ourselves and that we really listen to our airmen and we get positive and meaningful feedback. So we go to the next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Loretta, and she's going to give you some of the finer details.
Okay, next slide. Okay, how many supervisors do we have in here? Great. So as we go through these slides, I'm going to be talking about civilian development opportunities that are available to every civilian in the Air Force. So if you're a supervisor, look at the programs that are available to you, but also look at the programs that may be available to your employees. Because you've got that dual responsibility of not only making sure you develop yourself, but you've got to make sure your employees are developing themselves and you're talking to them, giving their feedback, and talking to them about the opportunities that they have to develop their leadership skills. Okay, next slide. Okay, is anybody familiar with this slide? Right. This is the civilian continuum of learning. So we've always had a continuum of learning for the military. They know exactly what leadership development they're going to take at any point in their career. There was not anything like that for civilians. So this was developed to give civilians a roadmap. I want to be a leader in the Air Force. I'm a GS7. What can I do now to start building my leadership skills? So I'll kind of go through this roadmap with you and show you how to read it. You read it from bottom to top, left to right. So if you look at the bottom, civilians come in at every grade level. So you may have a new accession coming in as a GS5, or you may have a new employee, civilian coming in as a 15. So if you look at this, everybody starts at the bottom, and there's a lot of self-development available for civilians. I will tell you, over the last 10, 15 years, our leadership has looked at civilians and decided we have got to offer more development for them. So there's been a lot of focus on civilian development. So we'll not only talk about the in-resident, the long-term programs that are available, but we've also spent a lot of money on self-development programs. There's soft skills out there that employees can go in online, and there's just a variety of articles, videos, books, short courses where they can just look in and say, hey, I'm having a problem with my communication skills. Can I go in and look? They can go in there and get a short 2 or 3 hour briefing, read an article on it. So at the bottom of this, you'll see self-development that's available to everyone. On the next middle section of that, we have our distance learning courses, and then so our CTAP course and other continuous development. So there's, again, a lot of opportunities there. What I'm going to be talking to you about are the courses at the top portion of this chart. And those are mainly the leadership courses that are centrally managed at AFPC. Most of them are competitive programs, but we have over 2,000 quotas in the various programs that I'm going to show you that are available to civilians at all grade levels. So again, if we look at this on this right side where it says strategic vision over at that right corner, those are courses that are going to be available to our higher graded civilian employees. And then when you look at the left side, those are the courses that are available to the lower graded civilian employees. But I'll give you a list of all of them and the grade levels that are available that they're open to. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the Central Civilian Leadership Development Program. And these are programs where, again, employees have to compete. We have a variety of short-term and long-term programs in this portfolio. And again, our goal is to meet the long-term Air Force leadership needs. So we want to develop civilians to sit right next to their military going through the same development programs. And they also will have the opportunity to move on some of these programs. They'll be outplaced into different positions so they can take back that learning that they got from that program they attended and apply it to a new job. So what we're looking at is selecting the right person for the right training at the right time in their career. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a CD portfolio. As I said earlier, we've put a lot of emphasis on civilians. When I started working at AFPC about 15 years ago, we had about 12, 14 programs that were available to civilians. The emphasis was GS 12s and above. We now have over 30 programs that are available to civilians, and they're available to GS 5s and above. So we'll start it again on the left side, BDE. So we offer the same professional military education courses that the military get. So these are in resident, SOS, and you can see there that's open to GS 9 through 12s. We have Air Command and Staff College open to 12s and 13s. We offer that in resident, and that's a 10-month program at Maxwell Air Force Base, or individuals can apply for the online master's program. And that's where they actually attend distance learning from their home station. They attend courses on their own time. When they complete the program, this is the only program that they'll get PME and the master's. It's the only non-resident program where they'll get both of those. And then we also have the Air Command and Staff College SANS with an emphasis in that specialty. Okay? 14s and 15s, we offer Air War College. We also have a variety of courses at National Defense University. And then we have the Defense Senior Leader programs. All of these are in resident 10-month programs. The Defense Senior Leader program is a 2-year program. We have a variety of academic and fellowship programs. The first one here is the Associate's Degree Program. That's one of our newest programs. Civilians can actually apply, get selected, and do distance learning to get an Associate's Degree Program, and that's out of the Ecker Center at Maxwell. Okay? So that's one of the newer programs. Again, any grade level can apply for that program. We also have master's degrees. That's open to GS 12 to 15. Education with Industry, RAND, and the labs, those are experiential programs that are available to civilians. On the leadership seminars, this is where we've added a lot of 1-week courses for civilians to attend. So you can see there we have a variety of courses. We have over 100 quotas in most of these courses that are open to civilians. So again, just want to show everybody that there is development available for civilians. You can go to our website, on the MyPERS website, and get the details of every one of these programs. Again, in resident programs, some of them require mobility, some of them don't. Some of them require, they'll let you go off for 10 months to Air Command and Staff College, come back. We're going to ask that you be placed at a different position, but you don't have to be mobile. So most of the courses now do not require you to be geographically mobile. If you want to be geographically mobile, your career field team will work with you to get you outplaced in another location. But we have lifted that mobility agreement on most of these programs. So again, if you go look at our website, there's an article on every single one of these programs that gives you the specific information and the requirements for that program. All of these programs are centrally managed and centrally funded out of AFPC funds. Okay, any questions? Okay, next slide. So we have an annual call for our nomination for employees who are interested in these programs. And for about 10 years now, the annual call has been from 1 March to 1 May of every year. This year we have changed that, so the next call that's coming up next year, the call will open on 13 January. So we're trying to get the word out because most civilians know when this call opens. The call will open 13 January and will close 13 March. We are also using MyVector now, which is an automated process for the nomination process. So civilians can apply for these programs from 13 January to 28 February. Okay? At that point, the window closes for the civilians, and then we have an extra 2 weeks for endorsers to endorse all of the packages. Endorsers can start endorsing as soon as the package is submitted, but they do have an extra 2 weeks to look at all of the packages they have. After the call closes, from April to June, the developmental teams from each career field team will look at those packages and vector them And they can decide which packages they're going to forward to the Central Selection Board and which packages they're going to hold. If they feel someone is not eligible or ready for training, they'll hold it, but they'll provide feedback for that employee to tell them, we've held back your package, but this is why, and give them some information on what they need to do, experience another assignment to make them more competitive for the programs in the future. So again, the DTs have that ability. Hold the program, this person's not ready, or yes, this person is very competitive and we're gonna forward it to the Central Selection Board. That board meets in July. After approvals, we announce in the October, August, September timeframe. So again, it's a long drawn out process. This nomination call that's starting in January, employees will actually be attending in 2021. So if you think about it, that's like a year and a half from now. But we need people to start looking, if they can go in, look at the programs, look at what's available. Again, there's a lot out there for them. And then just be ready for this call when it opens on 13 January. Okay, next slide. So I talked about MyVector. That's the new platform that we're accepting the nomination packages for. But I encourage everyone to go in there. There's career development and mentoring that's available, so the individual can go in there, register, and ask for a mentor. So that'll help individuals to find mentors. We're also working on vectoring and developing the civilian development plan. So again, go in there. Your experience is in there. You can go in and develop a resume. It's a good tool for supervisors to look at and talk to their employees and give them feedback. Again, I encourage everybody to go in now. You've got to register to get in, and then you're also eligible once the window opens for CDE. On the dashboard, you'll see that they've got that window open, so you can apply for any of the CDE programs. If you look in today, you're not going to find anything on CDE. Because it's not built in, but when you get closer to this timeline for the nomination call, you'll see that. Okay, next slide. Okay, I also want to talk about a couple of other programs that are available. Hopefully everybody knows there is now tuition assistance available for every civilian in the Air Force. And we're talking permanent civilians, but for every civilian, GS and wage grade. So if somebody's looking at going back to school or haven't done any school, you can start looking. It's through Athens. It's the same system that the military used. You go in there, you register, you put it in your degree plan, what courses you're going to take, it gets approved. It's basically on a first come, first served basis as long as we have funding available, which in the last couple of years, our leadership has continued to fund that, so we've not had any time when we said there's no funds available. We'll pay 75% of the tuition, and you can take up to 2 courses a semester. This tuition assistance is for courses you take on your own time. But again, just want to let everybody know tuition assistance is available for civilians. Okay, next slide.
Loretta?
Yes.
So for the doctorate classes, is that $4,500 for the entire year, or is that per semester?
That's for the entire year. So we know the doctorate programs are a little bit more expensive, and they're going to cap you at 75% also. But you should, a lot of people, I mean, 2 classes a year is a semester is a lot. So it'll depend on, of course, where you're going, what the cost is, but that $4,500 applies to every level of education. Yes? Yeah, there's a cap of $250 per semester, and I'm trying to think of the semester hour. There is a cap per semester hour. Yeah, and quarter hour. So if you go down, if you go to MyPERS website, look in the force development area civilian, there's an article on tuition assistance, and it gives you all of the details on tuition assistance, eligibility, what we'll pay, what the limits are. Okay? Next slide. Okay. We also wanted to make sure everybody knew that there's also The PME programs, SOS, ACSC, and Air War College, those programs are also available through distance learning, and civilians can also apply for those programs. Employees self-register going through the AU website and can get into any of those courses, and there you see the grade eligibility for each of those. So this is for individuals who want to complete their PME, but don't want to make that commitment for a 10-month in-resident program. You can still do it while you're working your regular job on your own time. Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. And that's all I have. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
If you want to get a second degree, would you still cover?
So the tuition assistance will not pay for courses at the same level. So you would have to go, like, if you have a bachelor's, you can get a master's, but you can't get another bachelor's. Okay. Thank you, and I'll be here afterwards. If anybody has any questions, I'll stick around and be able to, I can talk to anybody if you have any specifics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loretta. One of the other topics that we want to cover is just to give you some updates on civilian hiring. I will tell you that civilian hiring is also one of our major weapons systems, and that we have to get it right. Over the past many years, especially the last 3, we've been doing many rapid improvement events. We are honored to have a political appointee who worked for the secretary, who worked for Caterpillar for 26 years, and she did process improvement. She has been partnering with our team as we roll out different programs and try to find improvements to the civilian hiring. In talking with some of your commanders before this, we understand that there are challenges across the board on getting airmen on board, and rest assured we will continue to partner after today, and we're going to fine-tune some of the programs that I'd like to share with you today. As we go to the next slide, civilian hiring is a team sport. If somebody walks in and they say, yep, I've had a really good ride, I'm quitting today, or I'm going at the end of this pay period, we're going to have a gap. Unless you have an overage that you have a farm that you could just move them over from a temp to a permanent party. So it's really incumbent upon all of us to really take the data that we have on our civilian hiring and doing those fields and to project, to workforce plan as much as possible. In many of our areas where we have the turnover, is similar to you all. What we do is we have kind of a grow your own program, or a temporary program where you kind of try before you buy. So we'll bring them in as temporary employees, or at AFPC we have the Goodwill contract. You know, they kind of hire them, we get their CAT cards, and they kind of flow in. But civilian hiring, as we work with you all, we will try to fine-tune programs so they could go over some of those big windows and gaps that you have. Our workforce, if you look at the statistics, especially across the Air Force, we are at the average of 47 years old and up. Our HR community, we are actually in a very severe shortage, and as we look at HR personnel aging out, they're aging out very quickly. Same thing for our maintainers and several different other specialty areas. So it's really important we use programs like our Premier College Intern Program, where we're going out and we're going into universities and we're recruiting juniors to come and intern with us over the summer. They see if they like us, we see if we like them, and then we bring them on upon graduations. In the intern program, they're GS5s. As they graduate, they're 7s, 9s, 11s, outplacements. It's a really wonderful opportunity, and in some areas we actually have them staying on throughout their senior year because they're either at UTSA or, depending on where they're interning, they can continue to fill both capacities. Those are above and beyond your UMD, and they are on our central salary account. So it's a really great opportunity to get some of the younger folks coming out of the universities into our programs. But as we look at the workforce diversity, it's very important that we look across all these different lanes and that we try to project our vacancies, get them advertised. One of the biggest myths is we can't put an RPA in until somebody is leaving or somebody's gone, and that's totally inaccurate. We want you to lean forward. We know if one of you got picked up to go to ACSC in residence and you know now The list will come out here. If you find out in October or November that you get the opportunity to go in the summer, we want you to put the RPA in now. We'll actively recruit and we'll start onboarding those personnel. We have enough lapse rate that as we're working with your senior leaders, we want you to put the RPA in. We want them to come on a certain number of pay periods before, so you have the right seat, left seat, and they can go on. But we have many of these different tools, and what we're going to do is continue our relationship to make sure that we share with you some of the opportunities for these hiring efforts. If you go to the next slide, this is the civilian hiring model, and this is a busy slide, but these staffing experts over here do this full time. They work with you, they hone in you on that workforce planning. We had a job fair in JBSA this week, and people show up in some of these capacities. We can offer tentative job offers on the spot. Others, we even took a lot of HR applications this time too, so that was very exciting, but we want to be out there. We have what's called a talent acquisitions team, and what they do is they mine resumes throughout the year on LinkedIn and other different areas. So what they do is you all can tell us, we were talking earlier, that I need this many people that can teach whatever. They can go out, they'll put ads out, they'll seek, and they can have stacks and stacks of resumes that when it's time for you all to do an opening, that you can keep one open and continuous, and we can have them apply and match, but many other different areas. But this weapon system, this talent acquisition team, does a really good job bringing out the hiring efforts into the field. And that's a very exciting part of our business. As we prepare to hire, you can see the different areas in there. Each one of these specific areas, some are accomplished by these team of experts. Once the RPA comes to AFPC, it goes into our RPA intake. We look at it, and our goal is from the day an RPA gets to AFPC, if you are going to get a cert, our goal is to give you a certificate by day 25. And that is, so it's into AFPC on, say, August 1st. Our goal, and we're graded on this, is I give you a certificate no later than August 25th. What we've been doing, we've been working on assessments. We've been working on different tools so we can get information in. So those certificates give you quality candidates, but they don't give you a lot of looky-loos too. Many times we put ads out there and people just apply for everything and they're not qualified. But every time one of our staffing agents get a job and they advertise it, some of those certificates, some of those people that put their names in for that, we can have hundreds at a time. Every time a staffer gets all of those, they have to go through those and qualify them or not qualify them. So we really are honing in on assessments. So when you say, okay, these are the type of areas that we need to fill some of your jobs, by doing those, they take that assessment, it's good for a year, and then we can hire from those qualified personnel. But there's a lot involved in getting that RPA in. The selecting the top talent, once we get that certificate back to you, you typically have 15 days to get that accomplished. If you need more time, ask. We encourage you to try to get it done within that 15 days, but they're good for up to 25 or in special cases and extended. But the longer you wait, the longer also the airmen are waiting to get that tentative job offer or to get that firm job offer. So if in your workforce planning, if you know you're going to have a hiring panel, you're hiring a 13, 14, or 15, or a 13 because you want to give people the opportunity, have that panel, have those panel members plan, and that way when you get that certificate, you can have that panel and we can get that person the tentative job offer and onward ho. Vetting the candidate and suitability, that is a very, very important process. There are some things that we absolutely have, and the number one that we absolutely have to have are those fingerprints. And that's just to keep safety, on our installations. Beyond that, now we can waive the urinalysis test, we can waive the physicals, we can make all those things conditions of employment, so that way we onboard them, and if at some time later they pop hot on a urinalysis, we can say, yep, thank you very much, let's move to the next person. So, but what we're trying to do, we are trying to do all these things up front, so when it comes to that suitability, this team here can onboard them in a much more expeditious fashion. We've gone to some central programming and planning for the scheduling for these. I know that there's different times where they have the fingerprinting all over JBSA, but our efforts are to make these as simple as possible to onboard personnel. Once we get all that through, again, you get that new individual. We have different kinds of hiring. When we go through this traditional hiring process, as of today, our average hiring time was 103 days. We are not satisfied with that. We would like to see that reduced. We have some people that have been hired in 7. We have some people that have been hired in 30. We have some people that are in a category where they're waiting for a top secret SEI and they're a little bit further. With our direct hiring efforts where we can walk in for cyber and acquisitions, maintenance now, anybody that does a flight line, we can walk up and say, okay, we could be at a job fair, I can give them a tentative job offer right there, and as long as they get those quals, we can move them in. If you have a by name request and you have that direct hiring authority, boom, done. You don't even have to go. If you're hiring a 30% or more vet and you want to do it, give us a by name request, boom. So there's lots of different ways, and what we're going to do, we're going to leave charts behind that will help educate you on some of those hiring authorities because we always don't know about them. And we want you to be as familiar with them as we are. Because anytime we have any of those, if you go to the next slide please, anytime we have any of those type hiring where we could do it direct, it saves everybody, that time. Get a lot of questions about the 180-day waiver for retirees. That is a painful process. We have asked for relief. We asked for relief last year. We are asking for relief again this year. We're asking for overall relief, and we're also honing it into hard-to-fill positions, mission critical. And so we're hoping that if we can get approval for that. We know across our workforce that if you work in some of the areas that you work in, or if you work at Goodfellow, or if you're an F-35 sim operator, you don't build them on the outside. We know in our business we have to hire retirees. So in that case, it has to be advertised for 3 days. You give us the by name request. It's advertised. If there's more people on the cert, we do the substantiation that they're the best qualified applicant, and we move it forward and get that approved. If there's one name on it, then it just comes in. We are asking for relief on that, but just for fair and equitable hiring opportunities. Help us out with that. Hopefully we'll see some relief. But do encourage our retirees to put in for some of these jobs because we do not have enough people applying for our jobs across the board. So, and in other areas where we're looking from, you all have quite of a unique talent too, in that we're looking for educators, we're looking for people, around the world and doing different things, and just attracting them and making sure that streamline is there is also very important. And we'll work with your team also in this area to make your hiring easier for you. In some areas where you have that constant turnover, we'll use tools where we can leave an ad open for 90 days, open and continuous. So if you have to hire 10 of, extra, instructor or whatever, and we know you're going to have a window, and we don't get very many applicants because we know it's hard, we'll leave it open. So anytime our recruiters can go and say, hey, apply for this job, once their resume hits that cert, we can hire immediately. So there are many of these different tools that we can help make it easier for you. But this is one of the things that can help you with your hiring and using that workforce planning. Anytime we can direct hire. Your team right here is helping with streamlining. SCPDs, the fact if you use a standard core document, use your DP maps to give the specifics about maybe those objectives and those elements for that particular year. But that will also speed this process up. We have decoupled the classification process from the hiring process. If you need something reclassified or re-reviewed, you can do it any day, any time. You do not want to combine the two because they don't go together anymore. So do that ahead of time. You can do it a year out. If you know today, we were talking a little bit about workforce planning. You may have a vacancy, it's coming up a year from now, but you don't want to fill with the same type of position. In that instance, put the new PD in to be classified, and that way we can let the person attrit and we can fill the new position. That's all part of workforce planning. And then again, that talent acquisition team, we're here for you. We're here to help find some of those unique talents. Next slide, please. Here's just some additional recruiting tools that we have. You can see what we look like when we go. Our recruiters go out and go to some of the job fairs at some of the bigger conferences. Again, we set up here locally in hotels. We set up at the communications or the community center, anywhere. But our teams are always out there recruiting, and we all wear our civilian hiring shirts. So anytime we're in the airport or walking around, it says, hey, talk to me. And it's amazing what kind of conversations you can have. So that's a wonderful opportunity. But, Air Force Civilian Service website, you all are with us already, but we need other people with us. Or as you're looking at your planning and what jobs are out there available for you, please use these tools. Next slide. Next slide. What I want to do here is just now individualize some tools for you as the employee. And then as we go to the next slide, it'll be supervisors. But this is very important, and it's very important that we have open and clear communication with those that we supervise and those that we report to. And as you're taking some of the tools that Loretta shared, and you're thinking about clear communication and feedback, would encourage you to make sure that we give good feedback and we receive good feedback. And there are many opportunities to practice this, to ask for help on increasing your abilities to do this, but you want to have this open and clear communication. You know, our annual cycle is only as good as we make it. You know, DP Maps, we're all engaged in that on a regular basis. We have our regular feedback. I would encourage you to make sure you have at least those 3 feedbacks, and that you sit down and you do the individual development plan at the same time. You look at some of the growth opportunities. You ask one another where you see yourselves, and then you set some individual and personal goals and professional goals to accomplish throughout that year. And you know, DP Map and how we do the elements can be really positive in the sense that I'd like to get a certification this year. So if you do that, you know, you work that in, and maybe 2 to 3 certifications or whatever. But it helps you identify what accomplishments you would like to do, but it also gives us the requirement. So when they come in for certifications or for classes between us and the Acre Center and AETC, we can make sure that we have the capacity to include that type of training opportunity. We've talked with Mr. Van Steenberg on bringing some training sessions directly to your enterprise this year. And so we'll be working with your leadership team to, instead of having training, you know, at Randolph or somewhere like that, we are going to try to get one of these specific training sessions on feedback over here for you all to participate in. And so, anyway, your development is under your control. Again, it's personal. So make sure that you have your pyramid. You know what you want to do short term. You know what you want to do midterm, and use some of these tools to help you get there. As supervisors, on the next slide, these are the things that you want to regularly do and be engaged with your team members, because we're all different. And if you ask some people at sometimes, you know, be it sometimes in the day, but you know, just life happens with individuals. They have family plans. They have changes in their lives. They may lose a loved one. They may have a reason to go somewhere else. We've been really working hard on mill-to-mill assignments, and we've done really good active duty. Now we're working really hard on military and civilian. Actually, in our new talent marketplace platform, we ask you, do you have a government spouse, to help the spouses move in a more easier manner, I guess. And then as we work forward, we have civilians. Our career field teams actually work with the civilian teams to say, hey, I've got an acquisitions person and I've got an IT person. These are where we have the openings. Do you think we can get them there together? So that's always important. But through this timely and regular communication, that's where you're going to find out what the requirements are. There are some great tools out there that as you develop individual development plans, and you put them in there, that again, they can be generated and you can help prioritize the training that you need. Because we're good borrowers of other people's money. And so there may be, we have AFPC, we have the central funds, you have local training funds. You may have customers that come to you that say, hey, I need the service and I need you to bring me this, mobile training, but maybe some of them will pay for some of the training. So never set it outside your realm of asking, hey, can we get this funded, or might this be an opportunity for training for the entire team? And what we do in the San Antonio area is we take turns paying for things. Like our career field teams will pay for a class. You all will pay for a class, and to fill it up, we say, okay, let's take 10, 20 from each of the installations, and we provide that training too. So the more we can help one another, the better. Next slide. Here are some tools in different areas where you can, get the information that you need, not only to help yourself, but to help others. It's very important to be familiar with these areas because there are always a lot of changes that come out. Different issues that are changing. Every week, a leader from the A1 community sends out a strategic communication talking about what's happening for civilians, officers, enlisted, and in what we call care solutions, airmen and family readiness, wounded warrior areas, and things like that. But every week, so last week it was the Air Force Personnel Center Commander, Major General Toth, and he sent out the strategic communication message. This week it will be Lieutenant General Kelly at the half and the strategic level. These strategic communications are on the MyPERS website behind the wall, where you can get previous copies. I do tell you, I don't know how I get so lucky, but Colonel Gennaros' hot talk that comes out daily. Typically, these strategic communication sessions or notifications are attached to that. So, you know, I know Hawk Talk every day is a little challenging. Sometimes we don't always have time for it. I don't read every single one. But the weekly one I absolutely make time for. And I will say that Colonel Gennaros uses those 4 major areas in which we look at our Air Force today. But he sends out a lot of good information. So look for the strategic communication messages. Look for those messages. And just watch for the wonderful messages that come from your local civilian personnel office. Next slide. We covered quite a few things, but I would say one thing I would add just is the life cycle of an airman. And if we look at it as a civilian airman, we kind of look at that life cycle. Again, the retirement window comes up really fast. So it asks that you take time to express your timeline, but those behind you. Our benefits and entitlements folks process every single retirement request. We have some of the most outrageous requirements that I have to tell you that no matter what, you have to go in there and you have to print it and you have to sign it and you have to mail it to us. We are trying to get past that. It's OPM and the guidance on the electronic signatures. We would love for you to just be able to drive across town and give it to us. So that's one area we continue to try to refine. But if you're doing, there's some great tools out there that you can go out there and you can do an estimate on your retirement, and we encourage you to do that and watch for your timing. And then if you need retirement counseling, please don't hesitate to call into the Total Force Service Center, because we have great folks that do that. I was walking through the retirement section just yesterday, and every one of your retirements, every single one of the civilian retirements are done by hand. They arrive at AFPC. Strangely enough, you can't email it to us or fax it. They scan it in, and they literally go through every single page. So, you know, take time to make sure that everything is accurate. We do our very best. We have about 836 in the queue today. Our counselors are working overtime because although it's August, these are all for 1 January or before. And so we have that backlog. One that I looked at yesterday and looked over Miss Iva's shoulder had 400 pages in it. 400 pages. And so it's very, very important that they have the time and they have the time to do that right. The NAF, if any of you were NAF previously and you switched over, pay attention early. Go in there and look at your documents and make sure they're all there. Because I don't know if any of you NAF that have been around a little while, you know Mike Thomas, who was the golf course manager at Andrews, been there forever. He went to put in his retirement real quick, and we literally had to reconstruct some of his service. And sometimes he was fortunate that he had a job, others may not. So we want to give you the best customer service. So in taking care of others, you have to take care of yourself. Make sure your service computation dates are accurate. Make sure your WIGI dates are accurate. Make sure that your elections for personal insurance. I can't reiterate enough that make sure your next of kin, that people to contact in case of an emergencies, are accurate. Make sure that where your money is going, it's accurate. We have too many very sad cases where people have not updated it and went to 2 spouses ago, or people that they don't particularly care for. So I would encourage you to take care of you. Encourage, you know, when you sit down for that annual performance plan, maybe you ask, is your information up to date? You know, what's matched? Look at your TSP. The percentage of matching will be going up. That's very exciting. And I read October of 2020, and I sent a note and I said, is that fiscal year? Or is it really October 2020? But it does go up, so that's an exciting opportunity. It's investment in that annual civilian pay raise, we hope, or the now updated cost of living for here in San Antonio. That was nice. But we're continuously looking at some of those benefits because, again, finding airmen like you, everybody in this room, you're very, very important to our mission. And we want to, attract you, we want to retain you, and we want to develop you. So development is in your hands for you and for those that you supervise and those that you mentor. please use these tools to the best of your ability. We covered a lot. It's Friday afternoon. Some of you, I think, have been here a long time, and it's always end of the week, and it's always fun traffic in San Antonio. But we will open it up for questions and any comments. But really, and recognize we are always at the Air Force's personnel. We're always ready. We have a commander's direct box. If you have something, email us. But you have wonderful, awesome experts that are here that can come and do sessions. Education and training guy, he'll come to you. If you want to we have a monthly brown bag. We have experts come in and we just talk anything. But we're right across town. They're right here. Definitely use us to make sure that we can help you, broaden you, and give you the skills and the tools that you need. DB, we'll open it up for questions.
Wow, a lot of information that they just dropped on us, huh? All right, so the challenge is don't leave here with any questions unanswered. So I know there are questions out there. We have a lot of supervisors. We also have work group level in here. So this is your chance, not just for Ms. Toney and Ms. Brown, but to ask questions of the local manpower team as well. And the slides will go out to everybody after this as well.
And there are a lot of backup slides, so if a question comes up, and we do have a backup one, we tried to put just things that we think you might ask, but we will leave that with your team because they're very informative. But as we have the labor relations and we have the different specialty areas, there are some really good slides that just remind you about the experts that you have, that if you start running into a challenge on discipline, these experts can walk you through that process, and you always want to check with them, and you always want to check with legal. Conditions of employment, how do we do, the overtime and comp time? We have experts in all those areas, so please don't hesitate to ask. All right, first question. Anybody? Yes, sir.
I saw one of your bullets had education with industry.
Yes.
What is that about, ma'am?
Education with Industry is a program that we have for the military and civilian, and we look for opportunities to learn from industry that can better our processes. So for example, we today have persons over at Amazon, at USAA, and in other, let me go to Delta in Atlanta, and
We have them here in San Antonio at, again, USAA. We have people who Googled them. So they're, depending on where you're located, again, here in San Antonio, there's a lot of opportunities. AFPC works the partnership with the public industry, and they'll match your functional specialty with a company that has that. It's a 10-month program. So you'll go and work with that company for 10 months, and you'll come back. This is one program that does not require that you be outplaced. We encourage it, but we don't mandate that you get placed into another position. But it's a great opportunity to go out, work in a private company, bring back their best practices, and then try to work them into our practices here at the Air Force.
Our latest gentleman, we had 2 people just come from USAA, and they were using artificial intelligence to move process along faster. So Captain Wright was one of ours, and he created what we call HERO. And HERO actually processes all the military PCS orders. And HERO can do it very, very fast, like in minutes. And we're using that, but the more and more we get through, programs like that where we can automate, that's what we're currently using it for. Amazon, across the different business, Google, IT companies are very, very popular. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, we have Boeing, because they take our maintainers from us, our flight engineers. We love to partner with them, but wow, this Boeing here locally is just wiping us out too.
What that program is only
Yeah, there's about 8 career fields. Again, if you go into our website, it'll tell you what career fields are included in it. But yes, it's not across every career field. There's 8 career fields that are participating in the program.
Civilian side, military side, many others.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was wondering what opportunities there are for part-time employment, and also expanding the notion of part-time employment through DLI here. People need that various times in their life.
Okay, some of the tools that you might be able to use for part-time employment is one would be a retiree annuitant. That is where maybe somebody says, hey, I really don't want to retire now, but I'm taking care of my grandkids and I want to drop them off in the morning, want to have lunch with them, and be there after school. So what we have several retiree annuitants that are classifiers and staffers, and they work 4 to 5 hours a day or whatever, to kind of ebb and flow. The other area to do part-time employment based on your requirements is to take an FTE, these are tools for leadership, to take a position and to split it, and to do up to 32 hours, I think, in each one, give or take, and we do the similar program like when you get ready to retire, you can go into that part-time status, bring on the person that's coming in behind you, and let you go out, a little bit slower, but that way to transfer your knowledge. But your leadership and you all as supervisors have the ability to do that and to balance it. It works really well with students. It works really well like at our casualty office and part-time to where a spouse works all day, but they can get in a reasonable number of hours at night.
So it can be applied.
Yes, across the Air Force. Again, it's a tool for the tool bag, and they have to balance, the requirements, but that's definitely one we can leave for the team to consider. Yes, sir.
Michael Sherrick, Construction Flight. Your visit today is very timely because in the last couple of years, the rate of hiring has slowed down somewhat. We have put in a couple of hiring actions. We're a little unique, I think, in that the pool of qualified applicants within the Air Force, we always have to apply to be permitted to advertise externally. And I understand that presents additional hurdles that we have to go through, and that somewhat lengthens the time that it takes to onboard folks to send out PJOs. At the moment, we have 2 RPAs working. One of them was put in November of 2018, and we're on the verge of getting our 8th instructor out of that cert. And we're things have ground down so slowly in the hiring process that at the moment our mission is not seriously impacted, but it will be over the course of the next few months. And I'm just wondering, what can we be doing as a flight and as a squadron to expedite the process along with new hires?
One thing that we can do to help you is no matter what RPA you put in, we need to advertise internally and externally at the same time. No matter what, just make that a blanket. We got to get past the PPP, but with your kind of hires, it's external. And what we've been doing, we've been trying to find different ways to because when we call you as a hiring manager, if you're doing a hiring manager and you go, I really don't know what this is, and we give you the management advisory, and we found that we're shortchanging you. We're giving you tasks that you really don't have skills to have trained, nor should we. We've got experts who can do that. So we need to work you through that, and we'll fine tune. The one thing that's going to help us with one of your 1701s or some of your finer things is we reorganized at AFPC, and all the staffing teams are by functional area. So one team hires all the 1701s instead of 10 teams in 10 different areas doing them all separately. So now every single 1701 goes to one team, and they now will become much more familiar. So you can send me the names, the RPAs, so we can do a little bit tracking. In the future, we can do internal, external, all at the same time. And then what we need to do is, if you know you have one particular RPA that you're going to hire 10 at the same time, then you just put it out there and you leave it open and continuous. You get your first cert, and then what we do is we get the recruiters to say, hey, apply to this one, and once it hits the cert, once it hits the thing, you can consider them and you can hire them. So there's different ways that when you have a lot of something to hire, we do this at Tinker, we're doing it at, I don't know, we do it with the Defenders here, right? Did we open, I think we were going to. Okay.
We place them in an overhire position as we have UMD vacancies. We move them into the UMD vacancies and rehire for the overhire.
So that is one of the tools if you want to hire, if you could attract people in an overhire position. But what that's sometimes a little challenging too, because if I'm in the cyber and I get this overhire position, from the day I'm on board, I'm looking for another position. And so it also shortchanges you. So that is one method to try before you buy. I would definitely encourage you to have them in that capacity if they want to do that. But, you know, anybody that we hired from overseas this year, raise your hand. Nobody in here today, but I mean, I don't think we could attract you to take a temporary job to come in on a word saying I'm going to move you into a positive one. So I think you have to make up your mind which ones you want to take risk in your over-hire status. Deliberately decide if you're going to make it a temp or a term, or if you're going to hire them as an over-hire into a full-time. Permanent. Magic word, permanent. So that's another thing that you can do retention. But we'll work with you on that. And I will tell you, we're far from perfect on this. We have seen an increase today about closer to 60% of all hiring actions are actually out at the CPOs. The last time I pulled up JBSA, there were like 900 plus RPAs. That's a lot for the local area. But I really think that if you can look forward, you're going to see improvements. And if not, then we'll make sure we're personally engaged. Some of the ones along in the tooth, we need to get those out. But the number of hiring actions that are 80 days or less that are in the tube have really increased by the ones that are 240 and above. Those are coming down. These are coming down, and we're getting to both ends of the bird down. But we'll take that. We'll look at it and figure out what's going on with that. But we'll work with this team to make sure that we really fine tune the uniqueness of what you're trying to find. But that's definitely possible. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions for you. One is when we put a RPA in and it sets in wherever it sets, 25 days it's there, it gets kicked back to us. Why does it get kicked back to us after 25 days?
It gets kicked back because the way the days start. So when this is the challenge with that. So Spencer here can go in and initiate an RPA. And he does it today, and he says, oh man, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. I'm going to Maui, and I'm going to have a great time, and off he goes. Well, before he comes back, it's there. If you all, let's see, I did something today that just blew somebody away. I just said, don't send it back to, really staff AA something. Just regenerate it right there on the spot. So maybe what we could do, what they're doing, so it's not you, it is not coming back to you.
Okay.
They are now changing it to say, they're not giving it back to you, they're just putting it in and giving it to us fresh. Okay. So it should not come back to you. So see, process improvement. Thank you.
That's perfect.
That's one.
Question two is when job announcements go out, the only information that we're seeing on the job announcement is what is bolded in the PD. If you compare the Air Force job announcements to like the Army and the amount of detail that talks about what's in each of those, you're only taking from the Air Force side the bolded of each duty instead of putting in more details to be able to help get the qualified talent that we're looking for. Is there something that can be changed about that?
I know in the RIE that we did yesterday, they talked about something and we have no idea why this is happening. But what's happening is the base level is submitting the PD, and for some reason when it gets to DP1, when it gets to RPA intake, the PD is disappearing. And so I have a feeling with that tells me that with that, until we find out why this PD is disappearing, that they probably are just cut and pasting the very basics. Let us take that back for action. And if your particular areas need more information to attract more, we can definitely work on there. Now here's something too. By going to standardized staffing, they don't have to recreate anything. They're familiar with it. So if we can get to the same thing like the standard core document, if you can help us with the verbiage that you would like to see, Patsy and team, we can fix that. Okay. But it was weird. We had a OCONUS, our rapid improvement event yesterday, and they said things, and everybody in the room was just shaking their head because we're like, why would the PD be taken out when it has to get to the staffer? So we have to figure out what's pulling it off. But we'll take that for action, and if the announcements need to have more information in it, we can definitely make sure we're helping you attract the right people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
positions pay the same. There's not a lot of incentive for that person that is of value for leadership to stay in that position any longer than they have to. Those challenges that they face. So I'm curious if that's really something you follow up.
Yes, that's a very good question, and you know, we're losing people right now, like way too much to IRS and the VA, because they're allowing 4 to 5 days of telework and just 15 that have 0 supervisory responsibility. And when you think about, you know, at AFPC at 15 and what you do, oh man, so that is. What we do in that sense is the leadership would come and say, okay, hey, do we have this right? We would come and sit down and do kind of like a desk audit of your area and see if the program of yesterday, I would tell you that, you know, facilities yesterday is nothing like the facilities today with, you know, we've added the audio visual, the computer, and tomorrow when you look at these new classrooms that opened this year and they're all automated, their computers and stuff, we need to update that. So that's one way. The other way is to literally have some succession planning in it and to know that if you bring somebody on in one particular position, that they know they can, you know, be at whatever target, whatever, or do something. But we have that challenge across the way, but I will tell you, we're trying to go from the GS system to what we call Air Force Demo. And AFMC and some of the DSIPs area have what's called ACT Demo. And their grades are different than us. And what they are is instead of being a GS 10, 11, 12, they're different tiers. And what they do is they solve that challenge by saying, well, you're this tier today, but you can go over here and you can move up and down within that same tier for all these other jobs. So you're not hesitant to take that opportunity.
That makes sense. Something like that makes a lot of sense.
Correct. Absolutely.
And you can change that, but it's in the same things that there should be a means that you don't lose some of your talent. Not only the specialties, but in anything you have great personnel that are leaders. You do not want to lose them.
Absolutely.
So there should be some form of the nuisance that you're talking about. What was it?
Ag Demo?
Yeah.
We're asking for Air Force Demo. We went in and we asked for it for the entire Air Force because we want those flexibilities, and OPM told us no. But we're re-attacking, and we're going in small chunks. So all of AFMC is in Ag Demo, along with some other ones. They try to, take a few more in. So what we're doing is we're starting with mission critical, and we'll go from there. And then the whole entire HR portfolio is being re-looked at, redone. This is how we know we need change. So a lot of those standards that we classified by our 1988, 1987 requirements, those old requirements require pilots in order to qualify as a sim operator, 3,000 hours. 2,500, 3,000 hours. What aircraft does any rated person fly nowadays where you get those number of hours? You can't. So the challenge is we have to redo our standards. We were so excited this week because we had 2 people come down from OPM and 2 from DC Pass, which feeds OPM, and they went to our squadrons, especially the operators. They came, they drove down to Lackland in a van, and 3-hour tour there, stopping by the really neat bakery place. And 3 hours back, they all got to ride in simulators. Our own Miss Cronover said she got to fly and she landed at Nellis. She was so excited. But that's the engagement that we're doing. We're inviting them to come and say, look at what we do. We cannot use these antiquated hiring practices of the past. And they shared some things that are going more broad where we would have more flexibility in those paid bands, vice the grades. So we'll continue to look at that. And again, you all control your UMD. To a certain extent, you can look at what you have. But this leadership team, through meeting DD on a walk, literally, we sent Gator over here, our classification team. They've already made some changes, but it's what are you going to look like tomorrow? How much of your coursework is going to be online? Or how are you going to do some of your mobile training units from here? Then again, we've encouraged them to look at your PDs that you have now, but start doing an Isaiah trip. Again, go for that once in the future, and that will give some growth opportunities.
Right. And they, we're very close to all senior leadership. We are lucky. They're thinking outside the box as to what might. And it's not just your uniform pay that you're looking. That's not what I'm getting at when I say that. Is the position maybe set up correctly as say that however, just that additional benefits of wage increase or any other incentive over a standard level is what I'm
Yeah,
not
okay.
talking about taking an 11 and making it
No, I missed
12.
your point, and I don't think I.
Different tiers, I believe. Is what you're
Yeah, no, those are retention, and I don't think I threw it in here. But we have, you have a tool bag that says retention. You can give somebody a hiring bonus. You can give somebody a relocation bonus. You can give someone a retention bonus. And you can walk up today and say, hey, you did a very, very good job today. I'm going to give you on the spot award of $500. The challenge in those is, the different bins of categories, but your leadership has those tools at their step. It's in their budget. We don't have an unending budget. But as a supervisor, I would say, look at, you get about the 1%, the 1.5% is the guidance that we could spend on recognition. Just say, hey, boss, can I take that and use that throughout the year? Because you want to do some, maybe the annual with the wiggies or, those type of things. But on the others, you may say, hey, or as a unit, that we need to keep these level people there, and you can do retention bonuses. It's all what you have a budget for or what you can use. So those are available. We're having to use it, definitely for cyber, for one-offs. And for some of our interns, we can now pay up to $40,000 of their tuition that they paid in college. We're given annual, you can get paid above and beyond what your salary is, up to 25% of your base salary for 4 years for those hard to fill too. It's all about budget and data and retention.
Yeah, that's perfect. I knew about the actual data. There's a lot of stuff. But, we didn't know anything about that until a few months ago.
That's great.
So the stuff is slowly, and it is making a huge difference.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll encourage them to continue, but it sounds like you're getting a lot of good information locally, so that's good. But keep the ideas coming, because these may interest you, where time interests some. Others don't want money because you're already giving it to Uncle Sam. So, you got to find that right thing. And it may be that you allow somebody to enroll in a course. I'm going to go you, and then I'll get you.
Good afternoon. Africa Harrison Training and Development. First, I want to say thank you for bringing this and giving us this information. My question is about civilian developmental education. You talked a bit about outplacement after the courses. I know there were a couple of courses that do not require outplacement. What incentive is there for a boss? I'm just being honest. If I know I'm going to lose my person at the end of encouraging them to take these CBE courses, do I have the option to not participate in that outplacement? And I know that's a very precarious conversation, but are there any options not to lose my employees?
So we want to continue to grow our employees. We want to continue to give them development so they can progress. So depending on the situation that your employee's in, if you've got a new employee that's only been there maybe less than a year and they apply for these developmental programs, because it's the right time, we need to keep developing them. You can keep them depending on the timing. If you've had somebody for less than a year, maybe less than 2 years, and you're saying, I really have a lot more for this person to learn on this job, you can keep them. Now, if you've had somebody for 5 years, and it really is time for them to do something different, we want you to encourage them to apply for the programs. Now, what we'll do for you is when we send them to training, we're gonna fund their training out of central salary account. So their salary is gonna come out of funding that we have at AFPC, and then you can backfill behind them. So even though that employee may be coming back to the same base, to a different position, we're not gonna penalize you and say, well, you know, you're paying their salary, they're gone, and then I'm gonna lose them. You're gonna be able to backfill when they leave. So you'll get another permanent position, another permanent billet where you're gonna be able to apply, have people apply, and hire somebody else, knowing that that person isn't coming back. So again, we want to continue to develop. Hopefully we're not holding our people back, but we're also going to give you the tool to be able to hire right behind them, so you don't have a lapse in somebody working those duties.
Where would someone that's still a JS4 fall into all this?
So you're talking development opportunities?
Yes, because I've been here 14 years. My board doc has not been updated, and I keep getting different tasks added onto my duties, but where would all this fall in?
So do you have a degree yet? No. Okay, so we do have not only the tuition assistance, but we have the associate's degree program. And of course, if you can get some education and a degree, that's going to help you be more competitive, hopefully to progress in your career. Most of the leadership programs we have, they're going to start mainly at the 7-9 level. But again, there's other training that's available through your base level. They may have some different opportunities. The career field teams may have some. But as far as development, what I would encourage you to do is try to take some education courses. Again, that's going to help ground you and hopefully make you more competitive for other programs.
The other thing that I would offer is, are you sitting next to your supervisor? You come here with your supervisor today?
Supervisor's here, we're listening.
So what's your duty title?
Administrative assistant.
Okay. I would challenge you to have leadership look at the standard core documents for that area. I will tell you that it's very rare that there are any more 4s. And so what you do is you kind of look at some of those accretion of duties. You can look at that standard core document, and then maybe they look at a comparison and they look at it and they review your PD and they say, oh no, this classifies that as a 5. And then what this awesome team here will do is they'll look and see if you have been doing those duties, and if it's, if over time you've had accretion of duties and you really are the incumbent of, you've been working at GS5 for, X number of years, and then there are ways to either, if you have, there's ways to just put you in that 5, but then there are other ways that you may have to compete if you haven't done all those. So again, it's that refreshing of the organization. It's very important us to have different administrative, because we want to attract that person that comes in without that degree. But we want you to say, okay, I may be a 4 today, but in succession planning, you should already know where's that 5, where's that 7, what I need to do to get there.
Well, the thing is that 14 years ago I got rid of it. I was a W-6, and this is how I wanted to get here.
Yeah, it's funny, and we've run across some folks from Kelly when Kelly closed, and in different areas. But that's time where you sit down, you have some honest feedback from your supervisors, and you look at what's available. Any of you could be detailed for up to 120 days. We actually have a program where we're detailing GS-15s into SES billets. We're putting them TDY, and we're sending them to locations to get that experience to see if they'd like to be in SES. At AFPC, I'll share one of our programs for you all to consider. We have what's called we're not allowed to call it cross-training, because you can't cross-train in the Air Force anymore. They think it's a workout thing, but it's like, what do we call it now? CrossFit, or I don't know, we call it cross something. You can cross-train, you can't do CrossFit. So what we did is we took part of our lapse rate, and we identified, we first had 6 positions, we're doing about 4. And what we did is we took those positions and we looked across AFPC and say, where do we not have succession planning? And one of them was in casualty. I don't know, if you work with Mr. Todd Rose, it's never for a good thing, but he's our mortuary person. But I said, who is going to be the next Todd Rose? And everybody just looked at me and we go, there's no way to get there. So what we did is we took a lapse rate position and put it in there. So there's growth from one. And what we did is we let anybody at AFPC apply for that. We put them in that position. We hired them in that position, filled behind them, so that supervisor would let them go. And now that person trains for anywhere up to 1 to 2 years, and they either like it, they continue, whatever. But we put different positions in different areas to allow somebody that's done pure HR to go into Airman and Family Readiness or whatever. So, you know, maybe in your areas, maybe it's an opportunity for 1701, and we waive quals, by the way. We waive quals, we can waive quals, to give them that training, and then by the time they're done with that training, they were qualified in both particular areas. So that's a management tool that if you want to get out and you say, hey, you want to be an IT technician and you need to do that, then, you know, really, we're starting, many people are starting innovation cells where they're saying, hey, Kay, if you know how to code or whatever, we'll try to do that. But that utilization of maybe a couple of your positions in the lapse rate will help. So I would challenge you to try opportunities like that also. But the big thing is, just like you said, you know, we're all territorial. I mean, I got to take a gap to let them go do that, and that's why the central salary account or your lapse rate, or literally if you have a key position, and it sounds like you have a lot of information in your system, if we know and you said, hey, I'm going to retire in January, you can hire today, have the overlap, allow you to work on that continuity book, and then, you know, as you're getting closer, if you want to take all of December off, you want to work part-time all of December, you just go. So there's lots of opportunities, and you know, we don't know it all. We hear some of this from the field, but we have to think outside the box. We have to think about telework. We have to think about the, you know, RDOs. You know, some people it works for, some people it can't. You know, I don't think I'd get away with it. But you know, on some it just makes sense. But we're having to become more and more flexible. We have now Wi-Fi. Military Wi-Fi and civilian Wi-Fi in our work areas, and soon it'll be everywhere so you can plug and play. And we're actually developing some like Starbucks cafe areas that if somebody teleworks 2 to 3 days a week, we don't want them to take up a seat because we've got other people that can't telework. So we're actually having, you know, plug-in hubs and the capacity to do that. Yes, ma'am.
One question, and I'm glad you brought up the innovation cells, because we have been trying to get our innovation position classified. I'm not a classifier. I don't know how to fully write a position description. And so our first attempt, we've tried 4 times to send this back to get classification to relook at it. The first time we sent it over, and it came back as a lower grade than what we had expected it to. Response was, sorry, it's been graded, we're not going to look at it again. 2 years, come back and see us. And so we even took and rewrote it completely, and it changed everything more than 25% in our opinion. Okay? But not once did classification call us to talk to us and ask us, is this really what you want? Or what are you looking for? It would seem to me, and I'm an outsider because I've only been with the Air Force for 1.5 years, that if we worked better together in that way, classification, call the manager and say, is this really what you're looking for? Because if we send it over and say we're looking for a 13 or 14, and you come back and say, no, you're going to get it as a 9 or an 11, it's like, well, wait a minute. What did I do wrong when I sent you the information? Is there something that we can do to work on that?
Yeah, when you said you're only been here 1.5 years, that kind of made me go, but because it's our policy, we have to call you. They're required to call you. So I will take that if you just send it to me. But our classifiers, I was sharing with the story earlier, we've gone up to Elmendorf, we've looked at the laundry facility up there, we've had people jumping out of airplanes, the classifiers, whatever. Our customer services to you is that if it came through as a priority or whatever, you know, wing commander or whatever is your priority, nobody can say, they can't say no. We have to say. But technically, Gator, Mr. Rivera's policy is that you are required to call the individuals who submitted the classification and talk to them. So I will take that back to Ms. Jill Drisdale if you'll get up, give us the details. But there's enough of those innovation, kind of efforts now that we should be able to do it. Some of it has to do with hierarchy, and depending on where you're putting that. It is very hard for us to get to a 14 if they're under an 11 or 12. But if they're directly under a commander or directly under leadership, there's enough out there that it just takes a little innovation.
And we took the position after the first attempt. We went back and we scoured the library again. We even went to people that we knew were doing the same job that we were trying to create. And it still got kicked back on us.
Yeah, no, just give me the details, just send them to me direct. These are things that you can get through every pocket. I can't tell you how many, 2,400 people and all these processes. As I was telling General Kelly the other day, we just can't get everything right. But we have really, really worked hard on customer service. So I'm very disappointed to hear that. But there's enough ways that we try to get to yes or get to right. On your priorities, I would definitely, we, in my opinion, ask you to do too much in the management advisories. In the RIE yesterday, we're going to do those management advisories up front with this team. So by the time it comes back to you to say, is this correct? All you have to do is say, yep, we know it's 100% correct, good. Because we're asking y'all to do too much. And the same thing with classification. That's why the effort on reorganizing by the 1701, the series of innovation, those people do all the same thing. So just let us, we hired an SES under the innovation title, so I know there's a lot of different grades to this one, but the one I worked on this week was somewhat similar, back and forth. People we should not expect you to do that. That's why we have the standard core documents. So anyway, just give it to us, but our commitment to you is really that inverted pyramid, and if we're not asking questions now, sometimes we get some pretty interesting, thoughts from customers, and so some of our folks get a little frustrated, but we're really working on that, so we'll take that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Aaron Deutsch, overseas program management. I'm just curious, is there any guidance on how often we should be reevaluating position documents and sort of seeing as we all work towards like evolving mission, should we sort of cycle and just reviewing a couple of years?
I would say it depends, because as your mission changes, then I think you need to stay fresh with your career field team. If your career field team hasn't been over here lately for a visit, maybe they can come over for the next, do a brown bag or do a luncheon, because your career field team needs to hear from you on the different changes. I will tell you, one of the developmental teams that I briefed lately, one of them stood up and said, hey, we're not doing this anymore. And that's where we have to now move on.
And we sort of see the vision too, like there are some people in the organization that may have assumed a lot of duties that actually cannot capture in the program.
Correct.
Needs to kind of, just interesting to see if you can determine that and create a position.
Well, I would encourage you, A, to work with the team here, but one, helping us with standard core documents. Because as long as you have the basics, you can add the specifics that you need to in DP Max. So if you can get to that standard core document, you can do a lot of different things with an analyst. But again, if we can have you partner with our career field teams, then you all help us, and then you all help us with those assessments too. Yeah, and where we get in trouble, I'll get you right in a second, is classification, because so many come in and so many, we have some kind of peppering us, but do we say every 2 years is a baseline, I think? 2 to 4, but again, if your mission changes, like the one I worked today is like, the mission will change on September 15th. I need the PD done and classified, I need it to be X, and I need the body in place by September 15th. The answer was yes, sir. And it was like, when I call, okay, here's the classification, we're putting it back in normal things. I said, oh, no. This is boutique customer service. You're going to handle everything till it's done and the person is hired. And here's a way, either accretion of duties or use their veteran's disability at 30% or better. So there are ways to get around that, but you just, we do it every day, so we know how to get to yes or right faster. But we have bonding moments with this team and Colonel Generos quite often. But if we can make it simpler by making it steady, and when you do strategic planning, all over it. Yes, sir.
Articles of digital publishing. Along with Aaron's question, is there still a time frame from the last time your core doc was touched that before you can touch it again? Like, is there a 2-year time frame that's still in effect or something?
You know, when we first did the transition from NSPS, I'm kind of dating myself a little. You know, we kind of said, let us get through all the NSPS and do it. There isn't, because it's based on what your performance, your requirements are. If all of a sudden we levied on you, that's something that changed. And I want to think, I think the verbiage is more than 25% of what you do, then definitely have us look at it. I think, is that right? I think, I'm not 100% I'm saying the right thing, but I think I am. So I will say I don't know 100%, so DB is going to remind me, and I will get that answer to him, and I'll make sure I'm telling you the truth.
Great.
Yeah, because classification, man, I'm just telling you, that is, it's as bad as manpower for me. And, you know, just all the analytical things, and you walk down that aisle of the classifiers and the brains are going and they're doing things. But again, we're trying to make that simpler. And what's really cool about ACDemo, we don't classify. You all do. So you do, we don't do anything. It's strictly in those tiers. They develop everything. They send it to us. We cut and paste and we put it in the different forms. So that's, you know, it's interesting. What comes along with that, though, is it's also a big budget thing in AFMC. And so in those tiers, you only have so much money, so you got to watch how many you have in those categories, and then you have to go. But I think that's right, but we'll work with you on that. And then your data area and the cyber area, all that's changing so fast. And like right now today, we can direct hire anyone with cyber experience and that has certain things. I can walk up. You're getting a lot of jobs today. So I can give you a GS-12 Step 5. I can pay off your school or give you a retention incentive of 25% per year for 4 years. No questions asked. That's what we're competing with. We're hiring 10 right now for AFPO and AFPC. I mean, we just can't. But you know, Spencer's just graduated from UTSI today, and he can walk out the door and he's making $220,000. Yep. Yes. You know, so but he knows all of a sudden after 2 weeks he gets a red slip, and they say, yeah, we didn't like you too bad. At least with us, you get a couple of years. Yeah, but it's about the family. It's about everybody standing here and sitting here, and you know, like Loretta says, you know, has been here this long. You look at these folks. You know, you look around the room, and we know why we stay here. You know, 30 years for me active. And still doing it. I do it because I love what I do. And every day when we can make something right for somebody, like classify, get them hired, and I can get it done without getting fired, I'm good. But even the simplest of, you know, we've run into things that we've done wrong. We were out on a road show at Hill recently, and somebody was just talking to this master sergeant, hey, how's it going? He goes, well, it's not really going very good. Okay. What's going on? Well, we were adopting kids in England, and because the adoption takes so long, I had to leave my wife and kids in England, and here I am at Hill, 2 households. And we all looked, you know, they all looked at each other and they said, AFPC, is there still a requirement in England? Yep, okay. Hill, what's your manning? Boom. We literally PCS them right back. We're much different Air Force Personnel Center than we've ever been in my 35 years doing this now. And we're trying to get the S and try to get right. We're listening. We're transparent. We don't want the classifier behind the things doing a little, you know, thing like the Wizard of Oz. We want to hear from you. And literally, our classifiers have been over here for some of these positions. They'll travel. The defenders, we just got upgraded to 9s by going to Maxwell, Langley, and somewhere else. And guess what? They're not all going out the door, because that was a revolving circle with our defenders. You know, 2-3 years ago, all the overtime and the, you know, but our finance, you know, you all train them, and somebody else is there ready to get them. So we want to stop that. We need those incentives to stay here. And where you can't afford them in some of the areas, actually the HAF is picking up some of the bill for us. So, especially in our operational world, we just can't keep them. Although retention, we're so worried about retention this year. We were worried, but we are like spending hot. We're right now 300 over end strengths, and so now we're all like, you know, trying not to have an anti-deficiency. So anyway, people are staying, which is exciting. We always can't tell that retention tool, but if you have suggestions, if you have recommendations, let us know. You know, the list of courses that Loretta shared, those change all the time. and we change companies, we change leadership opportunities. We want people to become staffers and HR professionals, so if you even have a little interest, see this team here. We're always looking for folks. Or the labor relations, they want to be bored. They don't want you to come see them. But they're here to help you. Employee assistance program. I mean, there's so many tools out there for your use. So please let us know. All right, any other questions? It's Friday. All right.
All right, ma'am, thank you. Colonel Beloved volunteered to take additional questions. If anybody has any questions that weren't asked today or additional questions later, he'll collect those and get them to the right folks. So
great.
Thank you all very much, again, for taking your time to come out here and educate us as leaders, but as well as our folks. As we know, our personnel, our people are our most valuable resource, so we really appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming down and taking the time. Colonel, thank you very much. On behalf of Colonel Gillis, thank you very much. This is the DLIELC.
Oh, thank you very much.
Again,
thank you.
Colonel Gillis, thank you very much for your time.
Cool.
And coming out here. In addition to that, we have a gift for you.
Wow.
It says, from the Defense Language Institute English Language Center, thank you for being the keynote speaker on civilian professional development, 16 August 2019.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you very much.